Comstock. Today what I want to talk about is high-speed technical driving. Why would you need to know that? Again, we live in a very feral and dangerous world, particularly now, with all the, this is 2020. Think about the rioting that's going on, people are blocking roadways, people are driving down roads and they can't get out, and they're being being swarmed, being pulled out of their car, being beat up, being shot in their car. It's bad. And so what we're going to talk a little bit in this episode, and then later on we'll talk more about using a vehicle for protection, for getting away. We're going to talk about ballistics and vehicles and things like that. But today what I really want to focus on mostly is vehicle dynamics, high-speed and technical driving, understanding some driving, some methodology that will allow you to better escape.
I want to show you guys something. This is our Commando knife, inspired by the Vietnam SOG knife. Whether it's for hunting, camping, or emergency survival, this knife is built to handle it all. And talking about the handle, look at this bad boy. We got the stars and stripes on the handle for America. We got a glass breaker for any rescue situations you might be in, a durable 6.875 blade. It's the only knife you'll ever need once you get your hand on this bad boy. And guess what? This knife is free just for watching this video. All you have to do is cover the shipping by clicking in the link in the description, but we're only giving away 200 of these Commando knives. It's backed by a 1-year satisfaction guaranteed. So get to the link in the description and get yours now. Hurry up and get this bad boy. Oi, back to the video.
Better get to negotiate curves and basically make the most out of your car regardless of what you're driving. You could be driving a 1969 Volkswagen, and you can if you know what you're doing, you can drive as well. S.A. Joe here with his Corvette Z06, other than a straightaway. So it's all technique like everything else. And so I'm gonna give you some tools for the toolbox, some things to think about. So first thing I want to start with when we talk about a little bit about driving, technical driving, high-speed driving, is I want you to consider this. Think about your car tire. How much of that rubber is actually making contact with the asphalt, with the road? This is probably more than the average car, but let's just say 5 inches by 6 to 7 inches. That's how much rubber is actually making contact with the road. And you have 4 patches of those, 4 patches of rubber around the car. So those 4 patches that big are keeping that car adhered to the asphalt. A 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 6,000 pound car adhered to the asphalt at high speed and in dynamic turns. Okay, just think about that. That's pretty amazing that your wheels are hanging on that road and you're going around the corner at 45, 55, 65 miles an hour, 3,000 pounds, 4,000 pounds. Remember, that inertia doesn't want to go around that corner. It wants to keep going straight. But you're forcing it with these tires to make that turn. Okay? So first thing is think about that. And that kind of sets up everything else we're going to talk about. Tires. And tires are very important, by the way. In fact, what kind of tires have the best traction? Okay? On an asphalt road, a ball tire actually has more traction than, say, a knobby tire or a tire with a lot of, the grooves in it. The reason the grooves are in there is for wet weather, for rain, to help, wick the water away from underneath the wheel. But if you had a dry surface, look at Formula 500 cars. Those tires are like bologna skins. They're flat rubber all the way around. All right, so let's talk about traction real quick. We have 2 types of traction. We have steering traction and braking traction. Okay, so braking traction. If I'm driving down the road and I stand on the brakes, okay, and I'm applying 100% braking traction to that car is going to only stop as fast as 1, the tires can grab the road, 2, based on my speed, inertia, and the weight, is going to determine at what point I stop on the road. Right, a heavier car moving faster, all right, it's going to have it's going to have more kinetic energy pushing it forward. So your distance, it's going to take you longer to stop that car. I drive a BMW Z3 Roadster. You'll see that in our demonstration later on. It's probably got one of the best braking systems out there. It's very fast, brakes very quick, and it's very agile. It doesn't have a lot of power, but it has a lot of braking ability and is very agile through curves. Some cars are really big and heavy, and they're not very agile, but they're very powerful in a straightaway. So steering traction, what is steering traction? Steering traction is how much traction, if you're going around the corner and you hear your tires squalling as you're going around the corner, whatever speed you're traveling at, you're probably at 100% steering traction. Meaning if you're going around the corner 60 miles an hour and you hear your tires squealing, that if you were to get on the gas and go 61 miles an hour, you're probably going to break traction, the car's going to start sliding. And once it starts sliding, you're going for a ride. Not where you wanted to go, but probably off into the woods or over the cliff. Okay, so think about steering traction and braking traction. It's very important. So, with that said, if I'm going around the corner, okay, and I come around this thing at 60 miles an hour, and I'm at 100% steering traction, and if I were to touch my brakes, guess what's going to happen? Because I have 100% steering traction, that means I have 0 braking traction. I have no more adhesion left to slow the car down with. And here's where people make mistakes. They go around the corner at warp speed, and they realize once they're in the apex of the turn that they're going too fast because they hear the tire squealing. And what do? They get on the brake. And as soon as you get on the brake and you're at 100% steering traction and 0% braking traction, you have no traction left. You're going to go off the road. Okay? If I was going to go in and I was at 90% steering traction, so I went in at 60 miles an hour and I'm only at 90%. It means I still got 10% to play with. So if I'm at 90% here, what's that mean? It means I have 10% braking traction left over. Okay? Now that doesn't mean at 90% I can stand on the brakes and stop the car, because I can't go to 100% braking traction when I'm already at 90% steering traction. That's 190%. That's way over the limits of the wheel, obviously, right? So I got 10% to play with as I make that turn. That means I can maybe get on the brake just a teeny weeny bit to slow it down. Okay? And if I go down to 50% steering traction, I have 50% braking traction. All right? It doesn't work any other way. It's simple math. Okay, that's all it is. 100% steering traction means 0 braking traction. All right. Why is that important? Because one, from a safety standpoint, if you're running and you're taking a corner, you're trying to get away, or you're trying to chase somebody, you're in a big hurry, and you negotiate a turn at 60 miles an hour, which is 100% steering traction. You got no brakes left. How are you going to get around it? And you need to stop. What are you going to do? The best thing you can do is just get off the gas and let the car bleed off speed as it's around the corner. And you got to be a little creative in your steering and your driving so that you can keep the car on the road, which we're going to discuss here in a second. All right. So with that information in mind, next thing is you come down the road and you've got to make this hard right turn, okay? And you're zipping down here, 100 miles an hour, and you want to make this turn. What are you going to do? Now, ideally, the best way to negotiate a corner like this, and this is why I was mentioning my car earlier with the brakes in it, because it'll brake at the last minute. It'll come to a pretty fast stop. Whereas a heavier car, you need more distance to start slowing down. So when you see a corner like this, and let's just hypothetically say, okay, you're being chased. Okay, somebody's on your ass, not the cops. If cops are chasing, pull over, be a good boy. We're talking about if somebody's chasing you or you have a reason to drive really fast to get away, perhaps you're in a foreign country. When you see the apex coming up, what you want to do is you want to do all your braking before you ever get into, this is what's called the apex. All right, you want to do all your braking here, and basically you want to cruise around this corner at maximum steering traction. And then when you come out of the apex, you want to get back on the gas, is what you want to do. So it's brake in, cruise around, maximum steering traction, and then accelerate out. That's what you want to do. You never ever, whether it's a car or a motorcycle, ever want to go in this curve at 110% steering traction, hear a tire squeal, freak out, get on the gas, because you're just going to keep on going right over the road, okay? So now, taking an apex, a corner like this, it's technique. What we want to do is we want to shave the apex. In other words, if I see this corner here, I want to set my car up to negotiate the turn. So what I don't want to do is hug the inside of the curve here like this, okay? that's not going to work. Why is that not going to work? Because if you do, so we do a little geometry here. Actually, let me make this a little bit bigger. So this is my road. And I'm in my lane, and I'm gonna come through this corner full blast like this. All right. What's gonna happen is, I want you to see something. What's gonna happen is this. I'm gonna draw right here. This is my circle. It looks like this. It's pretty tight. But if I set my car up as I'm coming up the road and I go wide like this, and then I shave the apex, go wide, and then come back across, what have I done? It's a bigger circle, right? And that means I have more steering traction. I can round that corner because I'm making a bigger loop coming around it. Yeah, I'm hogging the other lane. I'm gonna use as much road as I can, but I can still do it from my lane. I just gotta get it right on the edge of it. But if I can look down the road and I see, okay, this is clear, I can come really wide on it and then come across and shave the apex. Now, what does shaving the apex mean? Shaving the apex is this. I come out, my eraser car. I'm gonna use my eraser car, come up, I'm gonna set the car up out here, come across, shave the apex, and then come back into my lane. So again, here, set up on the outside, shave the apex, I'm gonna go wide and then come back into my lane. I'm creating that big circle. I'm not doing this, I'm not hugging the inside trying to make that turn because that creates a little circle. That means I have more inertia on this car going through the corner. I have less steering traction, less braking traction, right? So the idea is to get through here as fast as we can. The best way to do that is set the car up so that you can go at maximum speed, brake where you need to. Okay, maybe the brake line will be right here, off the brakes, off the gas, let it coast around, right about here, get on the gas and continue to come out of the apex. Gas out of the apex. And that's it. If you watch race cars, you know, especially any kind of slalom racing or anything like that, watch the drivers. Nobody is hugging the inside, especially on a 90-degree turn. They're all going to the outside, they're drifting to the outside, shaving the apex, keeping that speed up. So these are professional race car driving techniques. Now, if you go into this corner and you realize, oh shit, I'm going way too fast, and you tap the brakes, what's going to happen is when you tap the brakes, the rear end is going to be the lightest part of the car, okay? Because as soon as you tap the brakes, what's going to happen is all the weight is going to tip forward on the front suspension of the car. It's going to unweight the rear suspension of the car. So what happens at the end, the back of the car gets light and it can fishtail. And it will do exactly that. If you're going too fast and you get on the brake, there's a good chance the back end is going to spin out on you just like that around the corner. I'm sure everybody's seen this at some point in their life where they're driving down the road and you see a guy spin out across the road, right? We see it at race car tracks all the time. That's what's happening. They're unweighting the front end of the car, the back end of the car, and putting all the weight on the front, which is causing the back end to fish out. So, what happens is if I get on my brake, my back end starts sliding out. I know I'm going that way. Okay. The best thing you can do is get on the brakes and lock them up. Let the car turn and slide. It's basically a controlled slide. Maybe you're not going the way you want to go, but at least you're in a controlled slide, and you're not going to send yourself doing one of these numbers or flipping the car. So if you catch yourself spinning, at this point, no more braking is going to help you. It's just going to make it worse. If you try to give it a little bit more braking, you're still spinning. Best thing you can do at this point is lock up the brakes by getting on them. You're going to lock up the front and rear brakes, and everything's going to start sliding, and inertia is going to carry in a straight line. Hopefully, not over the edge of the road or down the cliff or something like that. Another technique, and we'll talk about it later on in another module, is what I like to do is called trail braking. If I'm going to go into a corner like this and I want to go in fast, a lot of times if I can't turn the car in the direction I want to go fast enough because it's too tight of a turn, what I will do is just as I start to make that turn, I will pull up on my emergency brake, or if you have a foot brake, on the foot brakes you have to pull, there's a pin. You have to take the locking pin out so that when you depress the foot brake, it bounces right back. A lot of cop cars, they used to do that. They would take the pin out and say use their foot brakes to lock up the rear brakes, but not lock them up to the point where they had to reach down and disconnect it and raise the brake. It would automatically spring back. But you can do that, or you can use a handbrake. And normally what I do is when I go into a turn, I'll pull the handbrake. I'll intentionally cause the rear tires to squeal, not squeal, but to slide. And I'll cause it back in to slide around just a little bit. I'll come off the handbrake, give it gas, and then shoot out. Okay, it's a technique. And we'll demonstrate that as later on when we talk about that. So understand steering traction, braking traction. Never overcommit to a turn. Bleed off all your energy that you need. Bleed off before you go into that turn, so that you're at no more than 100% steering traction. How do you know you're at 100% steering traction? When you hear those tires starting to squall and squeak, you're right on the edge, on the cusp of sliding. You tap that brake, or you give it just a little bit more gas, that car is going to spin out from behind you. And if it does, get on the brakes, lock them up, and let the car slide, and then come to rest before you take off again. All right, so Joe, come on.
A lot of physics here, a lot of numbers, but guys, let me tell you, the best way to figure out how this stuff works, excuse me, is to go to a school. I was very fortunate. I actually got a chance to go to the Richard Petty driving experience, and they get into all the physics big time. They call it gas brake modulation, excuse me. And you're going around a racetrack 165 miles an hour. When you watch these NASCAR racers, and I didn't know this, they never use the brakes unless they're going to bump into another car. It's on-off gas the whole time, setting up the car into the turn exactly the way Dale was saying it. And I did it, and you'll go around the track, and you'll go faster and faster. I think I got up to 155. And let me tell you something, this shit works, and it's all physics. And really, it's math. It's really crazy shit. But if you can't go to, like, I live in Charlotte, so it's the Raceway, it's right there, but you can go to ITI, which I've been to, and I think BSR. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good schools out there, guys, that you can go to and actually do this for real. Is it expensive? Well, how expensive is your life and your family? And you get a chance to actually do this, and like we always talk about, it's another tool in your toolbox. You can rewind and go, you know what? I've done this before. So there's a lot of schools out there that teach us stuff, and just go online and Google them. But yeah, what Dale's talking about is absolutely right. I've never driven a car. I'll be honest with you. When I got on the track, there was so much physics and dynamics in NASCAR. I used to make fun of these guys. I'm like, man, they make all these millions of dollars making left turns. Let me tell you something. First off, there's a lot of physicality in it. Going around that track, as fast, and I wasn't even going as fast as they were going with cars around them. I was doing it by myself. But it's exactly the way Dale was saying. There's so much physics in it, and if you set your car up prior to going into a turn, especially at high speeds, over 100 miles an hour, which I was, it does exactly what Dale was saying. And if you get out of position, you're going to have problems. And trust me. And when you go to these courses, just an FYI for those who are going, oh shit, I don't want to do that. On the track, the course I went to, they actually have little hash marks on the track that when you're going around where your car should be, so you can actually visually see it as well. Because who in the hell is used to driving 165 freaking miles an hour in a car? Nobody, unless you go to one of these courses. So anyway, I don't want to steal your thunder, but This shit's real, guys. It's good stuff.
So what I just addressed here was high-speed driving, some basic fundamentals. Driving fast, and the biggest problem with driving fast is making turns. So now you understand how to get around the corner, understand the principles of braking traction and steering traction and how those relate. If you understand that, then you have a better chance of getting around that corner safely. So in the next segment, I'm going to talk about technical driving. We just talked about high-speed driving. Next, we're going to talk about technical driving. So if you like what you see, ring the bell.